There is a moment in every man's life where he looks in the mirror and asks himself one question: is this all I am capable of? Most men answer that question with silence, with comfort, with excuses dressed up as wisdom. Alexander never asked that question once, because for Alexander there was no ceiling, there was no enough, there was no point where the horizon stopped and he said, "This is where I rest." He was 19 years old when he inherited a kingdom, 20 when he marched into Persia, the greatest empire the world had ever seen, and by 32 he had conquered everything his eyes could reach. But here is what they don't teach you about Alexander: it was never about the land. His father Philip built an army. Alexander built a legend. And the difference between those two things is the difference between a man who wants power and a man who wants to find out exactly what he is made of. He slept with a copy of the Iliad under his pillow every single night, with a dagger placed on top of it, Homer's words on one side, a blade on the other. Poetry and violence, vision and execution, that was Alexander. That was always Alexander. He didn't just want to win wars, he wanted to be Achilles. He wanted to live so loudly, so completely, so dangerously that death itself would remember his name, and it did. At the Battle of Gaugamela, Darius III brought 1 million men, 1 million against 40,000 Greeks. Every general around Alexander told him to attack at night, catch them off guard, use darkness as an advantage. Alexander refused. He said, "I will not steal my victory." Think about that. Outnumbered 25-1, and he is worried about the dignity of his win. That is not arrogance. That is a man who has already decided who he is and refuses to let circumstance change that. He charged at dawn, straight into the center of 1 million men, and by sunset the Persian Empire was gone. But what no one tells you is what happened the night before that battle. His generals couldn't sleep. They were terrified. They walked through camp in silence, writing letters home, sharpening swords with shaking hands. And Alexander slept. His general Parmenion had to physically wake him in the morning, and when he asked how Alexander could possibly sleep the night before the greatest battle in human history, Alexander looked at him and said, "What is there to worry about? The victory is already decided." Not because he was naive, not because he didn't understand the odds, but because he had already won the war inside himself, and he knew the external battle was just a formality. That is the thing about Alexander that men across 3,000 years still cannot fully grasp. He was never fighting them. He was always fighting himself. He wept at the river Bees, not from weakness, but because there were no more worlds left to conquer. Most men never come close to the edges of their potential. They live in the comfortable middle. They mistake survival for success and routine for purpose. Alexander reached the end of the known world and cried because he needed more world. When was the last time you ran out of world? When was the last time you pushed so far, so hard, so completely that the only thing stopping you was the edge of what existed? He died at 32. No battle took him. No enemy defeated him. His own body finally surrendered to what his mind never would. And as he lay dying, his generals gathered around him and asked, "Who do you leave your empire to?" Alexander looked at them with his last breath and said, "To the strongest," not to his son, not to his family, not to loyalty or blood or politics, to the strongest, because that was the only currency Alexander ever recognized. That was the only thing he ever truly respected. Not where you came from, not what you were given, what you were willing to become. 3,000 years later, we still say his name, not because he was perfect. He wasn't. He burned cities. He made mistakes. He pushed too far and
lost men who loved him, but we remember him because he answered that question, the one every man asks in the mirror, is this all I am capable of? Alexander looked at the entire known world and said, not even close. The question was never whether you are capable. The question is, are you willing to find out?